question, and what I don't understand is you. But it's becoming clear. You want to go out with Fruity, don't you? Stand.
In honor of our secret love, and I call it secret love.
Catchy.
Oh, can't get a real job. Well, I can put in a word for you down at Burger World. See, cause I'm here to fries.
Whatever's next, man, you know? I can't call it. Gotta ask the man upstairs.
Show your face! Show your face, please, with sugar on top!
Hey, what's up, y'all? Y'all know my slogan. I don't know it all, but I know what I've been through. Now, before we get into this video, please make sure you head on down to Instagram and follow us on our official Instagram page at Hookah Anonymous _. We're able to be a little more explicit, a little more uncensored, and share content freely without running the risk of having our channel terminated. So, once again, make sure you head on down to Instagram and follow us on our official Instagram page at Hookah Anonymous _. We're almost at 100,000 subscribers. So if you like this video, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so you're notified every time we drop new content. Now let's get into what you guys came here to see. Now, Merlin Santana, a ladies' man on and off camera, and was almost every woman's crush in the 90s. An actor / rapper who many knew him for his roles in some notable TV shows such as The Cosby Show, Steve Harvey Show, and Moesha. Merlin was born in New York and took acting by storm at a young age and had what seemed to be a promising career. This would be before his life was ended at the hands of a lie of a 15-year-old girl back in November of 2002. This would shock the world because Merlin wasn't known for making enemies, and instead, most of the people that knew him said he was just as charming and charismatic as he looked on television. But a small disagreement that led to a fatal rejection would end up turning fatal for the young actor in the prime of his career. Merlin is one of the many young actors from the 90s who didn't get to fully live out their success, but even though they aren't here, doesn't mean that they are forgotten about. With reruns of Steve Harvey playing, you could watch Romeo, who Merlin played, as a student who wasn't that smart, but was funny and loved the ladies. Or when he played the role of Ohaji as Brandy's boyfriend on Moesha, who was also a ladies' man on there as well. Or as a young heartthrob, when he played as Stanley on The Cosby Show, as he acted out the role of being Rudy's boyfriend. In Merlin's case, art imitated reality, and he couldn't keep the ladies off him, where this time a young woman by the name of Monique King couldn't accept rejection. A lie she told is the reason Merlin is no longer here with us, meanwhile she walks freely to this day. Can you imagine losing your life, or knowing a close friend that lost their life due to something that they had nothing to do with? We're going to get into the tragic story of Merlin Santana, but before we do, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the platform if you aren't already subscribed. Let's get into it. Born in Washington Heights, New York, March 14th, 1976, Merlin Santana will grow up in a Dominican household. Merlin's story is unique because coming from where he came from and looking like the average inner city kid with the same struggles earlier on, he would give kids hope. A perfect example of starting from the bottom and making a name for himself in an industry that's mostly occupied by people on a who-you-know basis. Merlin would start off lucky, as his mother Leah Santana would explain that doctors told her it was a chance that a baby wouldn't make it while she was pregnant due to birth complications. If he did, it would be a miracle. Although it was a slight chance that he wouldn't survive, Merlin was born without any problems. Known as the miracle baby himself, his mother would give him a unique name such as Merlin, which he was named after the mystical figure Merlin the Magician, because it was like magic that he made it. From a young age, Merlin was always funny and charismatic and had a way of making people laugh. Merlin's mom didn't want her son to fall victim to the streets, as where they stayed at uptown in New York was a terrible neighborhood to raise a kid in during the 80s and 90s. This is when the drug epidemic hit hard, and in the neighborhood Merlin grew up in, the area was mainly known for drugs, drug dealing, gangs, turf wars, and lives being took. It was at 3 years old when a talent scout spotted Merlin and his mom in the neighborhood and encouraged her to get the young Merlin into acting. The scout would notice how adorable Merlin was and his charisma at a young age. The scout would suggest to Merlin's mom that she have Merlin audition for a fast food campaign in which Merlin landed as an advertising model. This would jumpstart Merlin's career as it created yet another opportunity for him to star in his first screen appearance as an extra in the film The Purple Rose of Cairo by Woody Allen. Acting became easy for him because he already had the personality and natural knack to make people smile, just like he always did himself. Merlin also spoke both English and Spanish, which put him at an advantage during auditions because he would be open to bilingual roles if needed. But it was in 1990 where Merlin's life would change completely, with his mother no longer needing to worry about Merlin falling victim to the same activities in their neighborhood. Merlin was casted to act in a play called Hey Little Walter. In attendance that night during the performance of that play was Bill Cosby, who watched in amazement. He also had The Cosby Show at the time, and it was a well-known sitcom deeply rooted in the urban community. He was so blown away by Merlin's performance that he had producers of The Cosby Show write in a new character just to bring Merlin on the show somehow, some way, which ended up with Merlin being casted as Rudy Huxtable's boyfriend in 1991. Everyone loved his character Stanley, who was funny, and as the show ended, Merlin would quickly land himself another role as Marcus on a show called Getting By. The show would only last for a year, from 1993 to 1994, and shortly after the show ended, Merlin would move from New York to LA for more opportunities. This was also a big step for Merlin because this would be the first time he would be on his own as a young man and making his own decisions while he lived by himself, leaving his mother behind in New York. He kept in touch with family, but his mother didn't have to worry much because Merlin wasn't the typical young adult who would think that it's party time all the time because he lived on his own. Merlin didn't smoke or drink, and Merlin stayed focused and would stick to his plan of exceeding to the next level, which was the main reason why he moved to Los Angeles in the first place. His hard work would pay off in 1996 when Merlin would land one of his most notable roles as Romeo Santana on The Steve Harvey Show, who was charismatic as much as Merlin was in real life and a ladies' man. This helped bring in more opportunities for the actor based on how popular the show already was, with well-known actors and castmates such as Cedric the Entertainer, Wendy Robinson, Terry J. Vaughn, and Steve Harvey himself. It was also at this time that Merlin would take a dabble into the music scene as he would start a rap career back in 2001, where some say that Merlin had a few tracks that was actually good, and judging from the only freestyle I was able to find on YouTube, he definitely did know how to rap. He would incorporate a little Spanish into his bars as well, showing off his bilingual side. Now, although Merlin moved to LA and became widely famous for being an actor all over TV, he was no stranger to his old neighborhood, driving fancy cars, mingling with some of his childhood friends, and even riding around comfortably on his motorcycle. Merlin was loved where he came from, and the way he was perceived showed it. But it wasn't just the love that he received, it also was the love that he gave, because Merlin never let all the fame and success get to his head. He showed love to everyone around him, even taking pictures with residents that recognized him and signed autographs. In a recent interview Fredro Starr did with The Art of Dialogue, he revealed that they both got off to a rocky start, but once they got to know each other, they got very cool after meeting each other in Harlem. Around this time, Merlin was featured in a few notable shows such as Moesha, Hanging with Mr. Cooper, and Sister Sister. Now, at the height of his career, things seemed to be going up for Merlin Santana until the tragic day of November 9th, 2002. Merlin spent the night recording music in the Crenshaw district of LA at a friend's house. Him and a fellow actor by the name of Brandon Quentin Adams, who Merlin was very, very close with, were together while Merlin recorded music. The sad part about this day is that Merlin wasn't even supposed to be in LA because he was supposed to go back to New York on his typical trip back home to visit family. But being the hardworking individual that he was, he had actually stayed back due to an audition for a new TV show that he was made aware of at the last minute. So Merlin ended up staying back, where he would take that time to record new music. During midnight, Merlin would call a girl by the name of Mercedes that him and Brandon met together at a restaurant out in LA. She actually approached him first as she realized who he was. That same night, the two would get together and hook up for the night as they both agreed to. No harm, no foul. However, when Merlin called Mercedes this time to come over and hang out with friends, she agreed and came over, but Brandon would realize almost immediately how out of place and awkward she would act when she got over there. Sources say that Mercedes would walk around the home and make a phone call right before telling them that she needed to leave. As she walked out, Brandon's suspicion would flare and he watched her leave and get into a vehicle occupied by 2 other men. Later on, it will come out that these are the same 2 men that dropped her off earlier. Brandon will also realize that the car drove just a few blocks away and then pulled over. Brandon's instincts automatically told him that him and Merlin needed to get out of that house ASAP because something didn't feel right, so that they did. Brandon and Merlin would quickly leave the house and get into Brandon's vehicle, but as soon as they did, it's as quick as his instincts would be proven to be correct. With Brandon in the driver's seat and Merlin in the passenger, Brandon described looking into the rearview mirrors and seeing 2 men running towards the car with guns in their hands. That's when he would try to drive off as fast as he could and yell "duck" to Merlin Santana. Brandon would drive off, but as he did, the 2 men would begin firing, striking the back of the vehicle. Although Brandon got away, unfortunately, Merlin was hit. While one of the men fired into the back of the car, one of the bullets went through the back of the vehicle and struck Merlin in the back of the head due to the bullet going through the headrest. He succumbed to his injuries almost instantly. Brandon would yell Merlin's name, hoping for a response, but all he seen was Merlin's lifeless body lean forward as he bled extremely from his head. A patrol car just so happened to be riding by, and Brandon was able to flag him down and explain what just happened. As paramedics made his way to the scene, Merlin will already be pronounced deceased. At first, police had no leads, which forced them to check Merlin's phone to see who he last spoke to so they could try to see if they could find any information leading to why someone would want to do harm to them. Could it be a robbery gone wrong? Or was the plan the whole time was to take the life of one of the 2 young actors? Brandon informed police of Merlin's call to Mercedes earlier that day and her weird behavior while she was in the home right before she left. It was a dead giveaway. What's a coincidence that she was acting funny, making phone calls, and as soon as she leaves, 2 men run to the car with guns? Seems to me that if it wasn't for Brandon's quick thinking, he may not be alive to tell what happened neither. After hearing of Mercedes' actions, officers wanted to question Mercedes, but it was only one problem because Brandon and Merlin just had met her, so they didn't know much about her or her whereabouts. That's when police would come up with an idea for Brandon to call Mercedes and arrange a date to meet up at a restaurant. Surprisingly, she agreed. Not too surprising, Mercedes, who officers would find out wasn't even her real name, gave up everything. Monique King, aka Mercedes, also lied about her age as she was just a 15-year-old minor. She would also try to play hardball at first and withhold information pertaining to the case, but it didn't last. Monique told police the motive behind Merlin's plot. She admitted that the 2 hooked up consensually, but she wanted more of a relationship out of him that Merlin just didn't want from her in return. With the lifestyle he lived, Merlin was enjoying his stardom and success and wasn't trying to be tied up in a relationship, in which he made very clear to Monique. Monique would become furious and came up with a lie as revenge to cause harm to the young actor. She would contact 2 men, 25-year-old Brandon Bynes and 21-year-old Damian Gates, who was believed to be her boyfriend. She would tell them that Merlin Santana forced himself on her and made sexual advances against her will, an accusation that was completely false. Monique made it all up, knowing that the 2 would react in her defense and wanted harm done to Merlin because of a bruised ego and emotion that she got just because he told her that he didn't want a relationship. Then come to think about it, she was underage anyway. Brandon Douglas pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter and assault with a deadly weapon and was sentenced to 23 years in prison. Damian Gates pled guilty and was convicted of first-degree M and was sentenced to 70 years to life in prison. The worst part of it all is that one man's life was taken, another man is in jail for possibly the rest of his life, and another is serving a long prison sentence, all due to a lie, while Monique was only given 8 years for her role and is walking the streets a free woman to this day. It also came out that Monique even lied to Merlin about her age at the time, so clearly she was known to just be a liar. I personally think despite her being a minor, she should have got way more time. If it wasn't for her, none of this would have happened in the first place. Maybe the suspects did think they was protecting their girlfriend and friend, thinking that she was really taken advantage of. I'm not saying that's a reason to take a life. I'm just highlighting that these guys thought they were doing something right when they were being played the whole time. Maybe the boyfriend found text messages from Merlin and she lied and said that, being that she was caught, she tried to say that he forced himself on her. That happens a lot even to this day, where a woman may step out on a relationship and due to her being caught, she lie and say that the man took advantage of her sexually, when usually that's not the case. She was just caught. Moral of the story is, Merlin's life was taken all due to a lie made by a woman that was envious and wanted more from him that he didn't want to give. So she took matters into her own hands. Now it's said to this day, Monique continued changing her name to dodge the scrutiny of her actions. Where a young actor with a promising career life was taken, all due to a lie that could have been avoided. Now this was a very unfortunate situation, and the fact that she's still walking around to this day is mind-boggling. Many people are unaware of Merlin's story, where he was cheated out of his life for no apparent reason, all due to envy. Now hopefully this shed a bright enough light on Merlin and encourage others to be aware of who they're messing with to avoid situations similar to this. Y'all jump in the comments and let me know what y'all think about this. Rest in peace to Merlin Santana, and may his legacy continue to live on. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell so you're notified every time we drop new content. And remember, as long as you keep on watching, I'ma keep on dropping. And I'm out.